What's up, guys? D-Rock1992 here. For this next video and for my next movie review, I'm going to review a movie that I did not get the chance to see in theaters this year. Came out this year. But I did get the chance to see it on Putlocker about a week ago. And this movie is very much an anticipated... I anticipated this movie very much because I love the... it's a sequel to an original movie that I really, really loved. And this movie is Zoolander 2. First of all, about Zoolander, the original Zoolander. I love the original Zoolander. It is dumb, silly fun, is what I can best describe it as. If you want to learn more about what I thought of Zoolander, the first movie, you can go on my YouTube channel, and I have that movie reviewed. So, you can definitely check that out. I gave it a 5, an amazing review, by the way. It definitely is an awesome film. So, Zoolander 2 returns a lot of the same, returns the major same characters. Ben Stiller as Derek Zoolander, Owen Wilson as Hansel McDonald, from the first film. Will Ferrell as Jacobin Mugatu. Little appearances from Christine Taylor, who plays Matilda Jeffries. Played Matilda Jeffries in the first film. Jerry Stiller has a little bit of a cameo in this movie as Maury Ballstein from the first film. And there's others as well, but the Milla Jovovich returns as her character from the first film. So, yeah, you have that. Plus, there's a lot of new faces. The major new faces I'll talk about here: Penelope Cruz. Penelope Cruz is in this movie. Kristin Wiig, Saturday Night alum. Fred Armisen, another Saturday Night alum. Sting, the actual Sting, the lead singer of the former band The Police. A child actor named Cyrus Arnold, who plays Zoolander's son in Zoolander 2. Plus a bunch of cameos. Kyle Mooney actually plays who is a Saturday Night, currently on Saturday Night Live, plays a character in this movie. Plus there's a lot of cameos. Katy Perry, Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Macaulay Culkin, Kate Moss, Billy Zane, Skrillex, John Malkovich, a ton. Demi Lovato, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Benedict Cumberbatch. There are a lot of cameos that are in this movie. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. What the movie generally is all about. So Derek Zoolander and Hansel McDonald are former fashion models. They're in exile at the beginning of this film. They're kind of in a self-imposed exile. They don't want to be in the fashion game anymore. But this new force draws them back in. Something draws them back into this fashion world. And they're trapped. They eventually fall into a trap that they have to try to get out of with the help of some new faces. With the help of Penelope Cruz's character, who is a leader of fashion, a Secret Service agent of a fashion department. They have to try to ultimately defeat Mugatu and this big four. Kristin Wiig's character, who is a fashion designer, who lures them out of exile and into her fashion world and all that. And along the way, Derek and Hansel realize that fashion has changed. Their fashion has definitely changed from when they were once male models, all the way back in 2001. It's 2016, and fashion has really has really changed. And this movie does a good job of showing that. You know, how it's changed from 2001 to 2016. So yeah, that's pretty much the basic genesis of the plot. I mean, they have to save the day, Derek and Hansel. They work with Penelope Cruz to try to save the day, and ultimately save Ben Stiller's, Derek Zoolander's kid, Derek Zoolander Jr., who lands himself into some trouble. So, who is landed in trouble himself. Not really himself, but bad people are trying to do bad things to him. So, basically, without spoiling too much of it, this movie does involve Derek Zoolander Jr. So, like I said, a lot of the main characters come back. Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, and Will Ferrell. New faces in Penelope Cruz and Kristin Wiig, and others as well. The character in this movie... Now, what I said in my original review of Zoolander was that I thought the character who stole the show, the actor who stole the show in this movie from Zoolander himself, was Will Ferrell as Jacobin Mugatu. He does it again in this movie. Will Ferrell does it again in this film. I mean, he just plays Mugatu so well. And I think I talked about it a lot in my first Zoolander review, but Will Ferrell just does a great job as Mugatu. He really plays that villain very well. A lot of good comedic timing with him. Ben Stiller does a nice job as Derek Zoolander in the film, just like he did in the first film. He is a star in this movie. Owen Wilson's a good secondary character, kind of playing off Ben Stiller as playing off Zoolander. Hansel and Derek, they play off of each other very well in this movie. And Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson are a good comedic duo. After all, they've been in like 10 movies with each other. 10 or 11 movies with each other in their careers. So there's a reason why these two keep getting cast together in movies. They've got great timing. As far as the new characters go, Penelope Cruz did a nice job, a nice solid job as the main woman in this film. She does a nice job, and she looks good doing it too. She looks really good doing it. Kristin Wiig plays one of the main villains in this film. The only thing is that there's a couple of these characters who... Kristin Wiig was one of those characters. She was a little over the top. She was a little too over the top for me, for what she was trying to give her character and all that. Little bit too over the top for my taste, but she was okay. She was okay. Fred Armisen plays a character that is kind of unnecessary. Kind of a character that just doesn't really... He's kind of a throwaway character. He's only in like one scene. And I didn't really love his character that much. Kyle Mooney plays a character also in this film, and Kyle Mooney and his type of humor just isn't appealing to me. Isn't really that appealing to me. He has that same type of humor. He's playing a Saturday Night Live character in Zoolander 2. So he pretty much plays the same characters he does play in Saturday Night Live. So not a lot of difference there. And Kyle Mooney just isn't that great in this film. Just not that funny. Not that funny for me. Among the cameos, I mean... There's some... I mean... Kiefer Sutherland does a good job in the cameo he has. He's in a couple scenes, actually, anyway. Uh, Katy Perry does all right in her cameo. There's a couple I didn't remember, like Macaulay Culkin. I missed him in the movie. I must have just missed him in the film. So anyway, about the movie in general, I thought this movie was okay. I thought this movie was so-so. I did not like it as much as it does not. It pales in comparison to the first Zoolander. It did not equal Zoolander, nor did it surpass Zoolander, the first Zoolander. So in that respect, Zoolander 2 is kind of a disappointment. But not too much of a disappointment because it actually does hit. I mean, there are comedic moments that hit in this movie. There are comedic moments in this movie that don't hit. There's some stuff that's not funny, some stuff that is funny. But the majority, about a little over half of the comedic stuff in this movie is funny, definitely. This movie does enough. So basically, this movie does enough to get by as a solid, good movie for me. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. 3 out of 5 for solid/good. It just does enough. And if I was to rate it in the 3s, it would probably be low 3. The low 3's grade. So yeah, I mean, this movie does enough, just barely enough, just enough to make it a good, solid movie. But it's a little bit of a disappointment because I was expecting bigger. I had high expectations going in this film, and I was let down a little bit. But I think you should watch Zoolander 2. I'd recommend watching it because there are good moments in this film. There's a lot of repetition from the first film, that's for sure. There's a lot of repetition from the first Zoolander, but Zoolander 2 is a worthy enough sequel to warrant watching it for sure. I would recommend it. I know it did not do well with critics at all. Not at all. And on a $50 million budget, it's made just $56 million, making it really a kind of a bomb, box office bomb. So I don't think you're ever going to see another Zoolander movie. I think Zoolander 2, its issue was that it came out too late. From 2000, Zoolander 2 should have come out a few years ago. And if it came out a little bit after 2001, I think this movie would have been more successful. Even though the first Zoolander didn't make a ton of money. Zoolander 2, if it came out in like 2005, 2006, something like that, it probably would have done better. But they waited all this time, and I think it affected the movie. I think it affected it because there were probably people that were waiting for Zoolander 2 and waiting and didn't get it. Because this movie was in talks for a while about being made. So there were a lot of people who were waiting. And then finally this movie comes out and they're not interested anymore. I think that's kind of the attitude of some of the fans. I think it reflects what the box office was for this movie. There were people that just didn't care anymore about seeing the sequel to Zoolander. So that's my 2 cents about it anyway. The movie is directed by Ben Stiller, by the way, who did direct the first Zoolander. So there you go. And so, I mean, yeah, overall, again, I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. And it's a movie that is just good enough to hit solid good status for me, for sure. But a little bit of a disappointment because it did not surpass the original, nor did it equal Zoolander. So yeah, I give it a pretty fair review anyway. And like I said, as for the comedy, there were moments that the comedy was good in this movie. There were moments where the comedy wasn't funny in this movie. And so yeah, there you go. So that is pretty much it. That's it for my review on Zoolander 2. D-Rock 1992 out.